Good evening and welcome to the May 2025 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We'll start with prayer and pledge. Vanessa will lead us in prayer. Scott will lead us in pledge. Please stand.
Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to serve our community. Please give us the wisdom, discernment to make the best decisions for the residents and for the town. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is citizen comments. I will start by reading this real quick. The town's public comment period shall be reserved for those citizens that have signed up to address the board or committee at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting pursuant to the town's public comment policy. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Additional comments may be submitted in writing. Do we have any citizen comments this evening?
None tonight.
We do not have any. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes of the April 17th, 2025 meeting. I assume that you have read and looked over those. Anyone have a motion or corrections?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Next on the agenda is new business. We have a special exception. The first one is a special exception, which B&D Property Development on behalf of Joseph Goodman, 100 G Street. Mitch?
Yeah. This is a special exception request to allow a general retail trade use in a PUD. This is located at 100 G Street. As mentioned, the property is zoned PUD. This PUD does allow for I2 uses in addition to automobile sales conducted within the existing building. The applicant intends to use the building for approximately 30% retail showroom space and roughly 70% warehouse. Receiving an inventory space for other retail locations will be stored in the warehouse. The public access to the building would be limited to the 30% retail showroom space. Building's just over about 40,500 square feet according to the Assessor of Properties website. So 30% retail would translate to about 12,150 square feet of retail space and 28,350 square feet of warehouse space. This would require a total of 58 parking spaces, 49 allocated for the retail and 9 for the warehouse. Currently, there are 32 striped parking spaces on the site. I was able to get in touch with the applicant prior to the meeting tonight and make him aware the issue of parking may come up here tonight. He has acknowledged that he is willing to go ahead and open up more of the space behind the current existing fenced area to allow for future parking spaces to be allocated for the business. So, Section 7.060B of the zoning ordinance detail requirements for authorizing special exceptions, and they are detailed below. Section 7.060 of the municipal zoning ordinance lists general requirements for a zoning variance request. Those requirements and staff findings are as follows. General requirements: a conditional use permit shall be provided the board finds that it is so designed, located, and proposed to be operated so the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected. Staff finds the proposed use of a general retail trade use should not negatively affect the health, safety, and welfare of the public as long as additional parking as required by the zoning ordinance is provided. Will not adversely affect other property in the area in which it is located. Staff finds that the proposed use should not adversely affect other properties in the surrounding area as long as additional parking as required by the zoning ordinance is provided. Is within provisions of special exceptions as set forth in the ordinance. Section 5.053.2C lists general retail trade as a special exception within the I2 district. While the property is zoned PUD, not I2, it does permit uses as allowed within the I2 zone. Conforms to all applicable provisions of this ordinance for the district in which it is to be located, as well as provisions cited in section 7.060 and 7.061, and is necessary for the public convenience and location plan. Staff finds that the site may be able to conform to all provisions of the municipal zoning ordinance as listed in criteria review section 7.060C. Criteria for review: ingress and egress to the property and proposed structures thereon with particular reference to automotive and pedestrian safety and convenience, traffic flow and control, and access in case of fire catastrophe. Access to the site would utilize the existing driveways off of G Street. Off-street parking and loading areas were required with particular attention to the items in item one above, and the economic, noise, vibrations, glare, or odor effects of the special exception on or by adjoining properties and properties generally in or near the district. Staff finds that the lot could provide sufficient space for off-street parking, as there are currently 32 striped parking spaces with additional area behind the gated area as well as in front of the building where additional parking could be added. Refuse and service areas. Refuse collection will need to be coordinated with local company for disposal of any waste. Utilities. This location has access to all the necessary utilities, including water, gas, and sewer. Number 5, regarding screening and buffering, is not applicable in this case. Signs, if any, and proposed exterior lighting with reference to glare, traffic, safety, economic effect, and compatibility and harmony with properties in the district. Staff finds the proposed business could meet the signage and lighting requirements as stated above. Required yard and other open space. Staff finds the yard has necessary yard and open space to meet setback requirements, as the structure for the used is currently in operation and exists on site today. General compatibility with adjacent properties and other property in the district. Staff finds that the use may be compatible with other properties in the vicinity and other properties in the district. Properties in the area are a mixture of commercial and industrial with a variety of uses. Other properties in the area zoned industrial have received prior BZA approval for commercial uses in the past. Number 9 is not applicable in this case. In conclusion, staff finds that the lot provides sufficient space to allow for the general retail trade use. Other properties in the area are zoned a mixture of commercial and industrial with a variety of uses. Staff would recommend that if the board approves the use, that the condition to be included that the parking as required by the zoning ordinance is to be added to the site prior to operations. Couple of pictures. This is taken from one of the access points off of G Street looking at the building. This is taken from the opposite side of the driveway. Right behind is G Street, and tough to see in this picture right here, but there's a fence that's located right here in this area. So behind that is where we're talking about additional parking could be added, or there's quite a bit of green space up here along G Street that could be modified of sorts to add some additional parking if needed. Here's the overhead part of the site. Right there is where the fence is located currently, and it also runs right here along Sam Ridley. So quite a bit of space available if needed for the applicant to modify to increase the parking on site. And with that, that's all we got.
Thank you, Mitch. Anyone have any questions for staff or council?
I have a question. On the parking, Mitch said 30% was going to be retail, which required 49. How do you monitor that? Is that like if they decide to do more retail than the 30%?
So typically what would happen for something like this is when they'd come through to get permits, for example, we'd have a breakdown and see what the percentage is, we can calculate it out. So if they were to do some kind of modification in the future to it, we can review it at that time to see if they're still meeting the
That's the old
requirements.
Dunkin' Automotive place, right?
Correct.
Any other questions for staff or council? If not, I'll go to public hearing. So I'll go ahead and close the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting and open up a public hearing for anyone that would like to speak for or against this request. If you do, please step to the podium and state your name and address for record. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals for any more questions, comments, discussion, or motion.
Mitch, it was mentioned, but I assume we do not know the retail use, what type of retail business it may be.
The applicant could better describe it than I can, so I default to the applicant for their intended retail uses for the site.
Okay.
Any other?
Yeah. Did he list what kind of retail? I didn't hear that.
That's what he
Mitch.
just, that's what he just asked.
just
We would have
asked.
to have, we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Okay.
The applicant would be better to answer that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can reopen. Sorry. Reclose. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'll reclose the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting and open up a public hearing for those to speak. So go ahead and step forward. State your name, address.
Sean Miller, 111 West Enon Springs Road. We have a store there. We do. We're just a liquidator. We sell a lot of Wayfair, Home Depot, general merchandise, it's all brand new merchandise. So we're going to be combining 2 buildings into one. It would be separated, the buildings would be almost 2 buildings inside of one, so we would have a significant amount for warehouse and then a smaller portion for retail. But it would be 50% furniture, home goods, and then some outdoor equipment, stuff like that.
Any other questions?
So
You're
it's an
across from
extension
Bob's.
of Overstock. I'm seeing
Yeah.
your shirt. Okay, fantastic.
Across from Bob's Barbecue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you.
Can't
Thank
think
you.
of anything.
So at this time, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. Any other questions for staff or discussion up here with us? Or do I have a motion?
Have a motion to approve with staff comments.
Okay, I have a motion to approve with staff comments, including staff comments. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion is approved. Request is approved. Next on the agenda is another special exception for Christopher Blake Sexton, PLS, on behalf of Paula Cropper, Sharp Springs Road.
This is a special exception request to allow an attached accessory apartment on property on Sharp Springs Road. Property is currently zoned R1 low-density residential and is approximately 1.14 acres. Currently, the property is vacant. The applicant plans to construct a dwelling and have an accessory dwelling unit attached to the new primary dwelling. At this time, staff did receive, since packets went out, we did receive additional information regarding the size of the structure, which you do have in front of you tonight, with additional more detail for what the layout plan for the home would be. I'll show it up here on the slideshow a little bit later. Outlined in red is the area where the accessory dwelling would be located as part of the principal structure. But that's all we've received at this time. We haven't received additional information as far as the location on the property, but lot is, like I said, over an acre, so it is sufficient size to locate this home, meet all setbacks, and hopefully have an adequate enough driveway to allow for future stacking of other vehicles on property. Section 7.060B of the zoning ordinance, detail requirements for authorizing special exceptions, and these are detailed below. General requirements, a conditional use permit shall be provided the board finds that it is so designed, located, and proposed to be operated so the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected. Staff finds the proposed use of an attached accessory apartment should not negatively affect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Will not adversely affect other property in the area in which it is located. Staff finds that the proposed use should not adversely affect other properties in the surrounding area. Is within provisions of special exceptions as set forth in the ordinance. Section 5.051.1C lists accessory apartment as a special exception within the R1 district. Conforms to all applicable provisions of this ordinance for the district in which it is to be located, as well as provisions cited in sections 7.060 and 7.061, and is necessary for public convenience in the location plan. Staff finds that this site may be able to conform to all provisions of municipal zoning ordinance as listed in criteria review section 7.060C. Criteria for review, ingress and egress to the property. Access to the site would utilize a new driveway off of Sharp Springs Road, as that is the only road frontage this property does have. Off-street parking and loading areas were required. Staff finds that the lot is large enough to provide adequate off-street parking. At this time, however, staff has not received information regarding the proposed driveway length. Refuse and service areas. Refuse collection will need to be coordinated with a local company for disposal of waste. Utilities with reference to location, availability, and compatibility. This location does have access to water and gas along Sharp Springs Road. Sewer is shown to serve the site via a utility easement through the property, which is owned by the town to the east. Access will need to be finalized through the utilities department and require town council approval. Number 5, regarding screening, is not applicable. Signs, if any, and proposed exterior lighting with reference to glare, traffic, safety, economic effect, and compatibility and harmony with properties in the district. Staff finds that a proposed attached accessory dwelling unit use should fit the compatibility with properties in the same district in reference to the above effects. Required yard and other open space. Staff finds that this yard has the necessary yard and open space to meet setback requirements as the property is over 1 acre in size. General compatibility with adjacent properties and other property in the district. Staff finds that the use may not be compatible with adjacent properties due to other lots in the immediate vicinity not having accessory apartments on their properties. Other residentially zoned properties have requested accessory apartments over the past several years and have received approval from the board. Number 9 is not applicable in this case either. In conclusion, staff finds that this lot does provide sufficient space to allow for the detached accessory apartment, or the attached accessory apartment. If approved, staff recommends a couple conditions. Putting a condition on this request that the applicant be required to pay all applicable fees associated with an accessory dwelling unit. This does include, but not limited to, the Rutherford County Development Tax, Town of Smyrna impact fees, code inspection fees, etc. Adding a condition that the building not be used for rental purposes. All applicable code and fire department requirements shall be met. And then in addition, relating to the sewer easement, that the utility easement and access is approved through the utilities department and town council prior to issuance of the building permit. Couple pictures of the site. So this is taken from the road. As mentioned, it is currently vacant, so it's a lot grown up at the time, standing on Sharp Springs looking towards the site. This is overhead. So town does have water facilities over here, and the sewer line, I believe you got that in your packet, somewhere along this area would have to be rerouted. So that's what the sewer line is in reference to. So that's overhead for the site, and this is the layout that we received a couple days ago. This portion being the part that is the accessory dwelling unit. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Mitch. Any questions or comments for staff or council?
Mitch is probably referenced here, total living area 3777. How much of the rental will be square footage?
I don't have an exact square footage for that. I did receive a separate, not as detailed plan as you have right there in front of you. It's kind of more of a rough sketch on this one. Calculated about to just under 1,400 square feet approximately. The applicant might be able to speak to that better than I can, but those were some rough calculations that I have.
And just to clarify, Don, it's not rental, it's just an accessory apartment, it's not considered a rental.
My mistake,
No, you're
sorry.
fine, just to clarify,
Okay.
which will,
Yeah, I need a little bit of clarification. Up in the content, we talk about attached structure, then the conclusions, we talk about detached. And this floor plan right here, would it require a special exception if you built the whole thing? Like it was a single house and your in-laws were gonna live with you?
The fact that we have spaces that can be used independently of each other, that's what triggers it. And there's a separate kitchen as part of this as well. And that's what would trigger the accessory dwelling units to come before you all. And that is why we're here, because of that request, because it is a mother-in-law suite, as you will. And that's the reason why the request is.
And I'm just trying to get clarification. I'm not trying to make it difficult. I know we're building units out on Rocky Fork, Amaville Road that has mother-in-law suites with breezeways that attach them. And I'm not sure if they're getting special exception permits to those. But and I'm kind of confused if it was attached to the house, even though mother-in-law was going to live there. That's what triggers the special exception.
it's like the kitchen space and having like two different living spaces. Multiple kitchens is one of the triggers, I believe.
Yep.
Okay.
Right, is that what I heard? Right. So I think we've had somewhere there somebody puts a kitchen in the basement, and that's considered an
Yeah, I
accessory
owned the
apartment
house
as
previously to me building this one that had a whole apartment downstairs, and it was constructed under a single building permit. And it had access. I'm just wondering if we're setting precedents for this, that they had to come in and have a special exception every time you build a structure that has an additional kitchen or something. I know our codes ladies in here nodding her head and
Yeah, that's pretty much the trigger from mine, and then past requests is that kitchen. So when daughter, son wants to move into the basement and have their own kitchen, then they have to come through that same process.
so this one, the accessory it doesn't show an additional kitchen.
It's that flex space that has a refrigerator, sink, dishwasher in between the living room and the master
So
bed
the
suite.
flex space.
Yeah, it's called flex
Is
space
what's
now.
requiring the special exception.
The plan that I received prior to the one that you have before you was more of a rough sketch. And that one showed a living kitchen, dining, pantry, all as part as what you see on your plan as the living room area.
Maybe we can get some clarification. So, any more questions for staff before we go to a public hearing?
No.
Okay. So at this time, I'll go ahead and close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open up a public hearing for any of those that would like to speak for or against this request. If you do, please step to the podium and state your name and address. And
Hi, Paula Cropper, owner of the vacant lot.
address.
Current residence is 1486 Cotillion Drive, Murfreesboro,
Thank you.
Tennessee, but the vacant lot is my property.
Thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, if you need clarifications on what our intention is.
No, my question was clarification on what triggers the special exception. And that, I'll discuss that later.
So
Yes.
it is the second kitchen,
It's the what?
the second kitchen.
Okay.
And I think maybe there was some discrepancy between the original and then the plat that we're seeing, if you call it a plat that we're seeing now, so.
Yes. And the intention is that it will have a full separate kitchen. So what
Okay.
Mitch is saying is it is intended to be a separate living space for my aging parents.
Yep.
And they will have a complete living area that is attached to yours, so we can help care for them.
Understandable. Any more questions? Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Christy Wool, I just wanted to clarify that this type of situation, it is the separate kitchen, the separate living. You can have homes that are much bigger, you have several families, and I say families, you might have a couple with children and maybe an in-law, that's acceptable too, but it's the kitchen, the separation of the facility, that's what's triggering all this, and it is a zoning issue. Now, we do have a lot of houses that are multi-level, and it's part of PUDs, those type of developments that have a little bit separate. So those are kind of a different breed. So, but we can go over that a little bit.
I'd like to discuss,
Okay.
not here. I'm just
I-
curious.
I understand. It's
Yeah.
it's a common question, not just within our jurisdiction. This is how it's handled everywhere.
Thank
So.
you.
But I'm glad you brought it up. It's good for people to kind of know what they're looking at whenever they're building.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and close. So I'll go ahead and at this time close the public hearing and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for any further discussion or comments. So yeah, no, it's a good thing to point out and understand because it is confusing at times, for sure.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Open for discussion or open for a motion?
I'm just checking something real quick.
Questions?
Benjamin, I got a quick question for you. I don't think it's gonna matter. If we were to approve this and we go with staff comments, even though it's not listed in the conclusion part about needs approval through Smyrna Utilities Department, Town Council approval, do we need to add that in, or can we just blank say we're good? Because it wasn't put in the staff comments.
It's not in that, no.
You need to add it separately. So we do need to add that separate, so we can go staff comments plus Correct. That, okay. I just wanted, because I knew it wasn't in there, and I want to make sure before we potentially got this wrong.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion to approve based on staff comments, as well as also that it will need to be finalized through the Smyrna Utilities Department and require town council approval to be able to do this.
Yep.
That's sufficient.
Okay. So I have a motion that includes staff comments with an additional comment around approval from town council and utilities. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Request has been approved. Next on the agenda is staff comments and/or other business. Do we have any?
I have nothing else.
Nothing? Okay. Next on the agenda is adjournment. Meeting is adjourned.